Cameron Botterill.
Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for coming. Yeah. Welcome.
So, for our regular viewers, I don't want them to think we've upgraded, because next week might be a disappointment. So we are at Entrepreneur Circle's brand new HQ.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about Entrepreneur Circle on our podcast because obviously me and Tori have learned a lot. But obviously they might not know yourself. So, in true Entrepreneur Circle fashion, who are you and why should people care?
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you. And again, welcome. So my name is Cameron Botterill, now the Managing Director here of Entrepreneur Circle, which is the UK's largest membership organisation for ambitious business owners, for entrepreneurs. So Entrepreneur Circle, we help business owners to grow their businesses. That's what we do. And we've been doing it since 2010, for ages now. I mean, oof. It makes you feel real old when you actually do the maths and look at it all. And yeah, we've just moved into this fabulous building. Cue the inevitable B-roll footage of the fabulous building. And it's been a heck of an upgrade. I mean, it's 3 times the size of our previous HQ. And yeah, we've kitted it out properly. No expense spared, which we're really starting to feel now. But it means we have this lovely studio, these lovely training rooms, and we're bringing hundreds of entrepreneurs here on a pretty much a daily basis now to teach them the things they need to know to grow their businesses. And I guess Cameron Botterill, it's a family business, so started by my dad, Nigel Botterill, and I guess I run the show now. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it. From lowly intern to managing director, what a journey it's been. And I guess, rising through those ranks, I've seen kind of all aspects of business through the highs, the lows. I've had my own businesses in the past. And so I guess I consider myself somewhat of an encyclopedia of what it takes to grow a small business in this country, because we've helped literally, over 100,000 businesses to grow now. And so we've seen behind the scenes of it all. And so now we just spread that knowledge and help people to grow.
You do, and we was actually here yesterday for an event, weren't we?
Yeah, the social media one.
You had some really good, it's feedback about something that happened yesterday that they acted on immediately. So I think you should say that. It just gives a good flavour of how.
So you have to leave the feedback forms, and
Yes.
had we not come back today, we wouldn't have seen how quick it had been acted on. So we didn't leave until 3 minutes to 5.
Yeah.
I saw Andy was doing the whip round at the end for the feedback, and I always like to leave feedback, so we're a massive advocate for it, aren't we? And I was saying about refreshments in the toilets for the ladies, and I've literally come in first thing this morning and they're already there, and I could see her putting them together behind the desk. So between 5 o'clock yesterday and 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning, that had been fixed already. And I know it's a small thing, but that quick is very impressive.
Wow, that is, phew, thank goodness. But that is one of the things we really pride ourselves on here at Entrepreneur Circle, is on just doing things properly.
Yeah.
And doing things well, and actually taking tremendous pride in literally everything that we do. I think that if an outside investor were to look at our business, they'd be horrified at what we spend our money on and things that we do, our expenses, because, even having a building this size, which, we ended up buying the building. It's like a £5 million building. Our business does not need this building at all. It doesn't need to have, the training facilities that we've got here. We've put a 136-inch LED wall as the screen in our training room, right? No one minded that we used to have just a pretty decent TV on a trolley. That was never in the feedback form, was never, you need a fancier screen. Yeah. But we just like to do things properly and to elevate what we're doing, so we elevate the results that our members get. And I think, taking on board feedback like that and just doing we love to do little extra sprinklings of magic. And, if you ever, mention to Matt that, you love this specific ice lily, and I swear to God, in a flash, he'll be sending someone out to Tesco's to go dig it out, and so he can present it with you, to wow you with this, that, and the other. Little moments of magic and I think we're going to go off on a lot of tangents today. I'm a specialist at going off on all sorts of tangents, right? But I think that at the end of the day, life's short, and I think that you can make business in particular, as a business owner, you can make your life and your business as much fun as you want it to be. And we've just taken the decision that, you know what, life's a lot better if things are just fun, if you just have more fun with it. I mean, we've completely brushed over the fact that we have a butler, which in itself
many people probably know that, to be fair.
is wild. Why on earth do we have a butler? Because actually, when our customers come here, to be greeted by a butler and to have someone who's responsible for making people feel special is a wonderful thing, and it's fun stuff to do.
And when you've been here once, he knows your name forever. Is that so?
It
He
is
makes
so
you feel
impressive.
after the convention I went to the first time, the next time I saw him, I didn't have my name badge on or checked, and he just knew straight away. It's like, hi,
I
Steve.
see.
It's like it just makes you feel
Names,
Does he study
drinks
it? Or
orders.
is he just
I think it's just how he works.
who he is?
He's a special kind of guy, man. Well, honestly.
He is, we love him.
I have a bit of a question on something you said a minute ago. So, you know when you said like, if an outside investor was going to come in, they'd be like, wow, what are you spending your money on? Because it gives people that feeling that Tori got yesterday, or like the feeling I get when Matt says my name. Sounds weird, or like American Pie. So,
Yeah.
but like, how do you sort of balance that? Because you would not necessarily give a business that advice to spend that money on those types of things in its early stages. So is it the sort of thing where as the business becomes more successful, you can spend money there to elevate that customer experience? Or is it something that you kind of they have to rise together in tandem for it to be effective?
I think there's a few things at play. I think that obviously my advice is not to bankrupt yourself doing fun things for people, right? I think that you've got to find the balance, yes. But I think that there's a few kind of philosophies that we live by here at Entrepreneur Circle. You know, I think that Walt Disney famously, had his view, which is that quality will out. So actually putting more time and effort and energy and money into creating higher quality things will, in the long run, actually deliver better for you. And I think that part of that is something that we believe very strongly here at EC, is that actually it's worth going the extra mile to make the experience better, because then actually people will recognize that what the experience they're getting is superior than they expected it to be. They're going to stay members for longer. In the long run, they're going to become lifelong members. We have hundreds and hundreds of members who've been with us like literally since 2010, like for over 10 years. And you don't get that if you operate on a scrimping kind of trying to maximize the profit out of your customers. And I think that at Entrepreneur Circle, we're kind of blessed in that because of the kind of business we are and our mission, which is to help as many entrepreneurs and small business owners in this country to grow, to escape mediocrity, to live the lives that they so rightly deserve with the business they've got and the work they put in. I think that that's always the driving force, not necessarily the bottom line. I think that, tomorrow I could boost the profitability of this business. I'm just millions of pounds straight to the bottom line, because you know what? We don't need to run all these fancy events. We can cancel all these different bits and pieces that we do. We can, even our events that we have a big convention at the ICC, and then we have our smaller events with like 400 or 500 people. We've done 2 of those a year, and we host them at the Vox, which is inside Resorts World in the NEC. Now, the Vox is the NEC Group's premium conference venue, and it shows by the size of the bill. It's so expensive to do events at the Vox. And we do some other kind of impromptu events, and we can't get in the Vox, that's fine, we do them at other venues. And whenever we do that, it reminds us, oh, goodness gracious. Actually, if we wanted to, even at a very basic level, let's cut our costs. Let's move to a typical venue that a business event conference would go. Let's go to the Hilton Ballroom and let's spend 15 grand on this event versus 80 grand on this event over here. To spend an extra 60 grand on an event, which is free for people to attend because it's included in your membership. So there's no net gain in revenue there. It's not bigger, you're not increasing your capacity so you can sell more tickets, but the venue itself is so much nicer, and the experience people have when they're there is so much better. And even the hosting staff that they have at the Vox are just elite staff. The food and stuff is spectacular. Everything about it is just a better experience. And so it doesn't matter that that's less profitable for us, that's going to cost more. That's the kind of event that we want to run, because that's the kind of experience that we want to deliver. And I think that in a way, we're very privileged that we can afford to make that decision. You know, if there was a venue which cost £1 million to run our event there, and it was even better than the Vox, would we do that? Probably not, because balance is out there. But I think not scrimping on the quality, not trying to do everything as cheap as possible with a view to kind of solely just maximize profits. I think that is a really broken mindset to have when you're thinking of growing a proper business.
Well, there's been no complacency. We said, didn't we, from last year to this year, the food had seemed to upgrade. I don't know what had changed or if it was something that the Vox were doing differently, but we were saying, weren't we? It was just a different level. And I mean, I've been member for 7 years now, and nothing, you've not got complacent at any point. It's either up or as good as, and that's what's amazing.
It's so stressful for us organising these events, knowing that, oh, flippin' heck, we've got to do even better next time. Oh my gosh, da 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 da. And I think, you know, the convention that we do every year, so obviously we run the National Entrepreneurs Convention, like the flagship event for entrepreneurs in this country. You know, almost 2,000 entrepreneurs descend on the IC, take over the whole flipping venue, and get, you know, incredible speakers, you know, dress the place all well, theme it all nicely, do it all properly, printed workbooks, and a whole big expo and everything going on. And stepping that up every year is really difficult to do without spending just way more money every year and just like throwing money at it. And at the end of the day, you know, we are a business. We can't bankrupt ourselves and, you know, spend an extra couple £1 million on making the convention slightly nicer looking. And, you know, doing crazy. We could hire flipping Cirque du Soleil to do acrobatics off the ceiling, you know, in the break times to entertain everyone. But like, what's the net gain in that overall? And I think that sometimes we go too far. We have to pull ourselves back. We have to remember that we're organizing, you know, this is a business event. Actually, as much as we like to think people are coming because they just want to have a great time and, you know, have a party for 2 days, actually, they are there to discover things that are going to help them to grow their business. And, you know, one thing that we do keep in mind with our events, with a lot of stuff we do, you know, it all actually stems from the content itself, like what we're delivering on stage, the actual, you know, those nuggets that trigger those light bulb moments that make you think, oh, wait, I could do that in my business. Let me write that down, go home, implement it, and see the results. That's actually the real magic. And everything else is just making that experience more fun and memorable for you guys there, for us hosting it, and it all kind of ties together.
I mean, we still listen to the song on repeat, don't we, from the first year that we came? That is the most memorable thing when you're feeling a little bit flat. We just put that on because whatever it was, and that messaging, especially that year for me.
Well, it was for me because I wasn't a member. I got a ticket. You had an extra ticket, didn't you? I bought it, and then I literally signed up immediately after that because it was like I'd been like operating my business as more of a hobby, and then it would becoming a business through Tori's input, and that was the first time I'd ever been to something like that, which wasn't part of my corporate role, where I was like, oh God, these things are great if you've got the right mindset and you're going to take the messages away. And that would just, that, I know it's like, I'm not saying it because you're here, I've said it on podcasts before, that literally changed my life that day because I was like, I came out of that energized, ready to go, and like just, it was just incredible. And I find things like that, we're going on loads of tangents here, we'll get back to this, but I do think that if Tori hadn't recommended it, I would have thought it looked too good to be true. And I've said that to people before. Tori hosted a Thrive 25 event back end of last year, and I like trying to get people to come along. And a few of my mates, like one that actually came, he said, "Oh, is that good then?" I always wondered if it was a bit of a scam thing when I saw it online because it's selling the dream. And I was like, no. So like, I guess from your guys' point of view, how do you sort of navigate that? Because anybody giving business advice is automatically, you probably feel it a bit in your industry as well, automatically seems too good to be true. So like, how do you sort of try and navigate that at the entry point? Because once you've got them, it's plain to see, it's easy to see, but like getting them through the door and into a conversation is the difficult part.
I think the industry of like helping businesses to grow is so tarnished by so many people who are just not good at helping businesses to grow. But, you know, there's so many, and I think, you know, it's not all the Americans' fault, but they're responsible for a big chunk of it, is that, you know, flipping heck, every other person in America has a $2,000 course that they're trying to sell you, and most of them are rubbish. And I think that it is something that we see a lot. A lot of people don't join Entrepreneur Circle because they treat us like some random bloke who's made this Facebook ads course in his bedroom and is trying to sell it for £1,000, and they think that this is like the same thing. And you know, we work very hard to try and make it like as overtly clear as possible that we are different. We have quite a lot in our kind of arsenal to fight against that. Like the fact we've been going since 2010, the fact that we've got, you know, 69 members of staff in a 15,000 square foot, £5 million HQ. Even that alone, we've seen such an uptick in the conversion rates of our ads and stuff when the ads are filmed in front of a massive building with your logo on it. It does something weird to just instill credibility, which who'd have thought it? And so I think, you know, it's always very stressful for us because, again, and you'll know yourself, because when you're on the inside and when you know the truth, when someone, you know, gets the wrong idea or the wrong impression, which can take, you know, milliseconds. They land on this page, see the wrong word, and it's like, oh, not one of those again, and dismiss, and there's almost like nothing you can do or say to like get that person back. That's immensely stressful for us. And it's very easy to be like, oh, people, why can't they just take the time? But actually, it's not their job to stop and do thorough research into who you are and, you know, make you credible. It's your job to make that abundantly obvious. And so we're constantly doing all sorts of stuff. You know, we have so many 5-star reviews and success stories and testimonials and things. We have so many famous faces who we worked with in the past, you know, that we try and get all over the place. But ads are only so big, websites are only so long, you know, there's only so much you can put in there. And at a certain point, it almost feels like, you know, are we trying too hard here? Does this feel like it's all just fake and made up and all sorts? So it's a constant battle. I think you've got to just come at it deliberately. And I think always be checking things. I think that we've learned a lot. It's why, you know, a big reason why we still offer a free trial to come into membership, which kind of works both ways because, again, and now it's free as well. Are you joking? This is definitely a scam, whatever. But also, we just know that when people do come in and experience Entrepreneur Circle and see what they get, then they recognize, oh, wait, this is fantastic. So as easy as we can make it for people to come in and experience that and have that revelation, then obviously the better for us. And so all sorts, absolutely all sorts. I mean, the emails that you get when you inquire or do anything that tells us you might be interested in membership, that sequence of emails is like specifically curated, and it lasts like 6 weeks worth of emails to make you think, oh wow, these guys are proper and legit, and includes all sorts of pictures and videos and drops in little bits and pieces like that. And oh, here's a clip from when Deborah Meaden was on our stage doing this. Little things that just like, oh, wait a second, what is this? And you know, I think just in this industry, that's just something you have to deal with. I think, you know, you don't get plumbers and people going, oh, you bloody, all plumbers are scams or something like that. You know, like I think every industry has its little quirks and things that we need to overcome. But I think in our industry, in helping businesses, ours is, it's too good to be true. It must be a scam. It's just something we live with.
Like I say, there's a lot of them there, isn't there? And there's a lot of scam artists out there. When you first said at the beginning, you said you had a couple of businesses, or you ran businesses before joining the EC. What were they?
So I come from a very entrepreneurial family. In that, yeah, exactly. In that, obviously, Nigel, my father, the founder of Entrepreneur Circle, obviously he had, Entrepreneur Circle wasn't his first business. He has run businesses for ages, doing all sorts, like his own consultancy firm, you know, big franchises, you know, MyMag, local magazines going out there. Literally, there's loads, all sorts of random stuff.
I think it's £14 million plus, is it?
15.
I'm sorry.
15 different 7-figure businesses, yeah, and Entrepreneur Circle's one of those. And, you know, that's also quite important in that we've been there and done that, and none of this stuff is just because we think this is what you do. It's because, oh, we've done this 15 times. This is actually how things should be done. And so I always knew, I was like, I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Let's do my own business. And so I have had several businesses from the age of like 12.
Really?
And scared, and it's kind of all degrees of business. So, obviously, I was that guy who was, selling sweets in school for extra money. And, I had this great scheme where I would just go and get the sweets from the kitchen cupboard and then sell them. So my cost was zero. Very high margins when you just rob the sweets from there. But even then, at university and stuff, I was selling, I had a bamboo sunglasses brand that was selling, these special bamboo sunglasses out to people through all sorts of various means. I had, back when hoverboards were really popping off, gosh, that was an absolute nightmare business, because they all started exploding. Not mine, but around the world, hoverboards started exploding. And so I imported like 250 of these hoverboards and created the hoverboard company. And this was like, bam, we're off to the races, let's go. And they're popping off, selling all these things, making tremendous money. And then all these reports that all these Samsung batteries start exploding and da-da-da-da. And that was quite challenging to overcome. And I decided that business was the one that made me realize that I do not want to ever run a business that has large physical stock.
Yeah.
Because the headaches that gave me, and there's nothing wrong with businesses that have stock, because you can have some great businesses with stock, but just for my own sanity, I was like, I'm not getting involved in large stock again, because dealing with the imports and the shipping of it all and the custom stuff and then the storing of it all and then the shipping of it all, and then someone says that they've not received it even though you've got evidence they have, but they've still refunded the payments and all this rubbish. And so, but yeah, bamboo sunglasses, goodness gracious, hoverboards. I had a social media consultancy business when I was like 15 or 16, where I would help. This was back when Twitter was really popping off. And so I was getting all these local businesses, followers of people in their local area, using all these tools and plugins and things like that, and had loads of people on direct debits and all very exciting stuff. So I had all these different like little journeys into business of varying scales and sizes. And I guess it kind of brings on to like how I ended up here at Entrepreneur Circle, because I was at university studying management and entrepreneurship with marketing. Absolute waste of time. Oh my gosh. I'm sure university is tremendous for some people and some degrees, but entrepreneurship is not the one. It is, I remember I realized pretty quickly that university degrees in things like entrepreneurship don't actually teach you anything useful about entrepreneurship, but you review research papers that other academics have written about entrepreneurship, which is not the same thing and not very useful at all. And I remember we had a special session that they'd put in, which was about marketing, and it was digital marketing. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be great. We're actually going to learn some stuff. And I remember the lecturer put up this slide and they started talking about Google Ads. And he was talking about this slide, and this slide, this was from prehistoric Google Ads days. This was like V1 of Google Ads, back when they still had the ads down the side, everything was, and he was talking about all this stuff, and I'm just looking like, oh, wait a second, no. They don't have a clue what they're talking about, because they're talking about all these things as if it's what's happening now. I'm like, no, this is like 6-7 years out of date. That's irresponsibly out of date to be lecturing people on. And so I was like, you know what, that's it, I'm dropping out. This is a waste of time. But got to finish your degree, and I was doing a sandwich course. So I had 2 years and then a placement year and then a final year. And so I was like, well, let's just do my placement year. That'll be practical, useful stuff. And so I started looking for somewhere to go and do my placement year where I would actually learn the practical side of running and growing a business. And in the back of my head was this nagging feeling, which was, oh, obviously, I know exactly the right place. Unfortunately, it's my dad's business. That's a bit awkward. But obviously, Entrepreneur Circle, flippin' heck, this business that teaches people how to grow businesses and runs all these training courses, that's where I want to do my placement year, because I'd learned so much stuff in that year to then go off and start my own business. And obviously, I was like, oh, well, I feel like I know what Nigel's going to say. He's going to say, no. And so, I came home one weekend and we're having like family dinner and stuff, and they were asking, oh, how's your placement year search going? I was like, oh yeah, looking at a few things. Disney, the Discovery Channel, all sorts of exciting stuff, but trying to find somewhere practical, I can learn this business stuff. I did think Entrepreneurs Circle, kind of in that tone, like, haha, imagine. And Nigel didn't even look up from his plate. And I was like, and he's like, and my mum is very family oriented, so she loves when we're all at home and here in local. She's like, oh, yes, it'd be a great idea. Get down from Lancaster, you back home. And Nigel goes, no, don't be silly. You want to, do your own thing, go explore. I was like, oh, yeah, no, just kidding. Oh, God. So I kind of dismissed it. I was like, no, that's just a fanciful dream. Never mind. Let me find somewhere else. Everywhere I looked was like not as good. And most placement years you go and do, we had a thing on our course where, most people went to like big consulting firms. They went to Deloitte or Ernst & Young and all sorts of stuff. And, we used to call them spreadsheet monkeys, because you go do your placement year and you are a spreadsheet monkey. You just get handed down reports and printouts, and it's like, make this spreadsheet, make this PowerPoint, and you're doing like very menial admin work, but in a place that does all this stuff. But you don't get to go and do any of the fun stuff. You just get to sit in the same office as other people who are doing that stuff and do all their boring work. And I was so disinterested in that as a route and a way to spend a year. I was like, that's not beneficial for what I want to do here. Anyway, so nothing was good, nothing was relevant, nothing was as good as flipping Entrepreneurs Circle just hanging over me. I was like, oh, that's so annoying. So I decided, you know what, that's it. I'm going to actually try and make this happen. And so I spoke to Nigel the next time I was home and said, look, this is really annoying, but I think that it would have to be really good. And he was like, no, it's not happening, because so many reasons. Like, it's really important that you don't just, blah. And I think it makes sense, because I feel like I would be the same way with my kid, in that, I think you want to make sure that your children aren't just reliant on you, aren't just riding your coattails, aren't just taking the easy way out, things like that. And I knew that's what he was thinking. And I also knew that wasn't what I was doing. It was actually that this just happens to me. And so I ended up, I thought, right, marketing mind on. I've been hanging around this guy for long enough. Let's come at this from his point of view here. And so I knew there was a print shop on uni where you can print your dissertations, things like that. And so I was like, right, one night, I just stayed up basically all night, and I created this book. And he still got it upstairs. And I created this book, and it was 100 pages, A3 landscape, big thing. And each page, I wrote a different reason as to why it's a good idea that I should do my placement year at Entrepreneurs Circle. And I had a little cover note, and it basically said, Nigel, listen, I want to do my placement year somewhere I can learn how to do this, that, so I can go and start my own business. That we can both agree that the ideal place I'm going to learn this, that is Entrepreneurs Circle. And we can both agree it's incredibly inconvenient that you are my father. Because if that relationship was not there, this is a perfect match, everyone would be happy, I'd bring tremendous stuff to the thing, it would be great, but you are. And I don't think we should let that diminish this for both of us. So here's 100 reasons why I think I should do this placement year. And they started off really strong. And try and list 100 of anything, and by the mid-90s, you're struggling. And so I sprinkled them out. So it was, I have this fantastic idea about how you could boost your performance of this, that, the other, all the way to, a fresh insight from a young mind doing all this sort of stuff, all the way down to, I'll be much more local, so we'll be available for babysitting, all these sort of things, the whole spectrum of reasons. And 100 reasons, A3, sent it to the printers, got it back, bound book, wow, very fancy. Got it in a cardboard box, wrote on the card, addressed it, hand addressed, hand stamped, big, do not open for Nigel's eyes only, all this intriguing stuff on the outside of the box. Put it in the post. I was like, oh, here we go. This is it. Got him now. And as first class post, I was like, okay, so it's gone in the post today, so it's tomorrow, maybe the next day. Oh, here we go. Just waiting for this phone call. This phone call never came. Nothing. And it was like a week later. And I was talking to, I think we're on like family FaceTime, someone else altogether, and then Nigel pops in. And I was like, oh, Nigel, by the way, did you get any post in the office? Like, this thing got lost? And he was like, oh, yeah, I got your thing. The answer's still no. And I was like, are you joking? After 100 reasons? I'm a student. That was so expensive to print and bind that book. Oh my gosh. And I was like, oh, for God's sake, now I've got to... And I was like, kind of just spiraled down, just like, well, this is it now. There's no, for 100 reasons isn't going to convince him. And so I was like, right, one final thing. So I sent him an email, and I was like, right, listen, my final ditch attempt. If you don't think this is worth it, here is what I would do in my first 90 days on my placement. Like, this is actually what I would want to come in and do for you to help grow Entrepreneur Circle. And so it was, I would analyze the viewership of this, that, and the other, and I would come up with this campaign to do this. And I think you're missing a trick by not publishing these publicly and only having them for members, and came up with like a proper little, almost like a marketing plan that I would do if I was successful in my placement thing. And I sent that off to him. And the next time I was home, I was like, did you get my email? And he said, sit down. I said, sit down. And he goes, this is going to be very difficult for you. And I was like, okay, hold on. This actually sounds promising. What? And he goes, if we did this, I was like, oh, okay, this is it, we got it now. I was like, if we did this, everyone is going to think you're there for the wrong reasons. Everyone is going to think that you're not as good as you are. You're going to have to be twice as good as anyone else to get any crumb of respect from any of your colleagues. You're never going to get any praise from me. You're never going to win Employee of the Month or any of that stuff. You're going to have to work so hard. And I was like, yeah, I know this. I'm in, let's go, let's do it. And so he agreed, bam, that we were going to make it work. And I mean, thank goodness, because this was getting real close to the end of the year and I needed someone to do my placement year. And so eventually I managed to convince him, but it was through in many ways, it's like a great lesson in marketing, in follow-up, in just not taking the first no, and so persistence, kept at it, managed to get in, and started me off, sure enough, lowly intern, data entry, the first month, just churning away, spreadsheet monkey, there I am. But eventually, pretty quickly, and I think part of this is because of my attitude towards the whole thing, because I wanted to get involved in so much stuff, because I knew why I was there to do that. I think that I very quickly got involved in lots of other stuff and was very good. I'm very good at data entry. I can type in real fast. And so got a lot of that stuff done, then went over to the marketing team, was helping them out with stuff and just volunteered to do things. And so progressed in that year, essentially from, literal lowly intern, that was actually my job title, lowly in the job title, lowly intern doing data entry, to actually marketing manager in the marketing team, responsible for like certain divisions of like the business and marketing them there, all in that year, because I knew I had to, like you said, I had to work harder. I had to be the first one in the office every flipping day. And, I had to make sure I left after everyone had left, just so I was seen to be doing all the right stuff so that they'd then feel comfortable to let me get involved in all these different things. And from there, obviously, I finished my placement year, having really established myself in the business. And I was like, well, I'm not being funny, but I don't really want to go back now to my rubbish degree, which is a waste of time, now that I know this is so good. But we made a deal that actually, no, you need to finish your degree. You've done it, you're like 3 years in now. You might as well do this final year. Honestly, my rent at uni for my 4th year, I think on a nightly basis, it would have been cheaper to stay in some luxury 5-star hotel because I basically had a lecture on a Tuesday and a seminar on a Thursday. I didn't bother going to anything else. So I'd drive up to Lancaster on Tuesday morning, go to my lecture on Tuesday, drive home, down Solihull Wednesday, then like go back up. And so I'd like basically just commute in a way to Lancaster, which is like 2 hours away, just to finish this degree. But really, I mean, ever since I started my placement, my whole focus and existence was just here. And that just kind of evolved into, various different circumstances, things like that, highs and lows, and found myself moving into like the head of marketing role. I was like, oh, here we go. Big bad boss man now. No, still. And now, was head of marketing for ages, head of marketing and sales, absorbed the sales team. And now, as of this year, and in January time, as managing director now, running the whole flipping thing. And it's been quite a journey. And, I think that it's an interesting place, Entrepreneur Circle, when you work here, because, I think, particularly for me, I do see this as like my business now. It's still Nigel's business, but I feel this sense of like ownership and responsibility and all these things, and I've got the autonomy that this, I feel like this is my business. I've got the same kind of emotional connection that you'll have with your business, like that's there now. And I think part of that is because of the family connection. Like, I'm not naive. It definitely helps when you can, discuss things on a Sunday evening after family lunch. And like, you know, I get that other people in the business don't have that opportunity to do stuff. And, you know, there was always this running joke that I was the only one who was brave enough to just open Nigel's door and interrupt what was going on, like asking him a question or things, because, you know, there's that element of, you know, family privilege there. But I think, you know, I've worked quite hard to kind of get to where I am now in this business, kind of by putting the work in. And I think that I'm very aware that in the same way people can see Entrepreneur Circle and think, oh, scam, what is that? I know for a fact that loads of people see Cameron Botterill, same surname, little Nepo baby Cameron there. And luckily I'm self-aware and mentally strong enough to actually, I just know that eventually you're going to realize that actually I'm pretty good at what I do here. And this is not actually just some random kid who's doing stuff because it's his dad's business and he couldn't get a job somewhere. And actually it's quite an interesting journey that has brought me here, which I like to tell, to really emphasize the fact that it's not just some random Nepo baby kid.
So, you know, that on that journey then, so when you become head of and then obviously the MD role that you're now in, were other people up for those roles as well, that then because you built the sort of respect and confidence, you were just seen as another sort of applicant for it rather than Nigel's son because of the hard graft you put in along the way? So when you came up for those positions, no one were going to think, oh, it's because of that. As you've done that groundwork then. So
yeah, at that level for sure. I think the challenging bit was definitely that initial stage. That's I think why, looking back, it's really helpful that I started as lowly intern and put in that graph there, literally at the bottom of the bottom. He was like, you report to everyone. Like, everyone can tell you what to do, da da da. And I think that was really helpful because it helped establish actually that work ethic and things like that, to the point where, you know, when I was in the marketing team, I was getting results. I think marketing is one of those wonderful things where it's really easy to prove yourself, because if you're getting the results, it's numbers. That's kind of like, so I could see that I was good at this and that we were delivering the results that we wanted to deliver. And so when it was our head of marketing, she went off to start her own business, own marketing agency, and we lose a lot of staff. Our number one reason for staff leaving is to start their own business, which is just occupational hazard here. But so really, it's always been the natural progression. It's like, well, Cameron should step up to that role, because if it was someone else who was doing what I was doing, and I was somewhere else in the business, then they would have stepped up to that role. Does it make sense? If they were delivering the same results and stuff like that. So it was never like, oh, go on then, give Cameron a go at this. It was like, it just always made sense, you know? And I think with the MD one in particular, I think that was quite a long transition that we were quite aware of. I think that, you know, Nigel's made it very clear that he's not going anywhere, and his intention with all this stuff is he wants to focus more on the things that he knows he's best at, you know, on creating the resources and the content and being on stage and creating stuff. That's his area. And as the business grows, there's so much other stuff that, you know, the business owner has to deal with, and actually passing the running of the day-to-day off to someone else, you can focus on the big picture stuff, is a really smart thing to do. And we knew we wanted to do that at a certain point. And because, you know, I was with the head of marketing and sales, is in this business touches flipping everything, every single division, because marketing and sales is like the lifeblood of any business, but this one in particular, because we also teach it. So we're also the team that's like creating so much of the content and the training and things. We're the ones in the trenches doing stuff. And so, you know, there was a point when I had like 18 direct reports, which is crazy. That's too many direct reports. But like the team was humongous. And what we were doing was it got to the stage where we were running the business, but from the marketing function, to the point where now the marketing function was starting to diminish its efficiency and effectiveness because we were focused on too many other things. And so again, it just made sense to do. But it's always an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. So obviously your brother works here too, Elliot. Was he not quite as persistent in getting his placement here? Is that why he went and flew the nest, so to speak?
I mean, we've got Nigel, we've got me, we've got my brother Elliot, we've got my aunt, Elizabeth. She's in the business as well. So it's like a proper little, it's a proper family business now. And yeah, Elliot left uni and went to work at M&C Saatchi agency in London. He wanted to be in London. That was his whole thing. He was one of those guys. You know, some people just want to go live in London for a bit. And I saw the state of the place he was living and just confirmed my reasoning that I don't want to be that person. And so he was working at big agency. You know, he was running ads for Pokemon Go, for Audible, like crazy stuff. You know, spending, like, he was responsible for millions of pounds of ad spend as like a child, like a uni student. But he learned, you know, he cut his teeth there and got through all that stuff, and then got the entrepreneurial bug that the entire family has. And so when he started his own agency and was running that for many years, and I think it got to the point where I think it was more lifestyle than anything else. Like, he wanted to get out of London now and come home, and I think that it kind of tied in perfectly with this whole, like, it would be great if Cameron could step up to MD, but that leaves this marketing hole. Wait a second, oh my goodness. And Elliot and his agency had been running our ads for years now. So like, they did a lot of our marketing. They were very intertwined with our team and everything as it is. And so we kind of skillfully approached him with this idea, like, we know you want to move home. What if? Ooh. So we ended up doing this deal where we would basically, Entrepreneur Circle acquired his agency, binned off all the clients, took the team. You now have one client. It's us. It's Entrepreneur Circle. And so we brought in that kind of marketing function in-house. And so now he's here heading that up. I think that, that is another interesting dynamic. Father-son is one thing, but like brother-brother, you know, anyone who's seen Succession knows, like, this can get a bit hazy. But I think that what's quite good about, you know, our family, we have a very strong, like, family unit. Like, we all actually like each other and get on well. Now that we're grown up, obviously he was a very annoying child, but most brothers are. So, but now we do get on, and so I think we can have, you know, the conversations we need to have with each other. We both, you know, we've not had any major professional fallings out yet. And I think we're both very aligned on what we want to do and achieve and where we want this business to go. And I think that helps as well, that we're all striving for the same thing.
I think we've said that before about how we operate, haven't we? Because it's obviously it's different between our brother and sister, but we clash, but we want the same end goal. So when you actually talk it out, you see that you're not actually that far apart, and you get closer the more you talk. So as long as you've got good open dialogue in those situations, you normally end up in a good place, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest struggle is switching off, which my wife finds very stressful. Because we'll be at like some family event, and like I'll be like, "Oh, great, Nigel, Elliot, quick, let's just sort this thing out." And I was like, "No, what are you doing?" So, we're celebrating your sister's birthday. Like, pay attention, sing the song. Yeah, and so, but like, I think Nigel's very good at switching off on family thing. Like, he's very good at like, let's talk about this later. And I'm like, oh no, I want to talk this now.
Has always been like that, out of interest?
Well, Nigel, from even when he was working and employed, I think Nigel's always had, he's had this idea that, you know, he wants to be a really good business owner for all the reasons he wants to grow his business. He wants to be a really good he wants to be a really good husband to his wife, and he wants to be a really good dad to his children. And, you know, he talks about how he learned ages ago that it's impossible to do all three of those at the same time for any meaningful length of time. And so he's very good at choosing which bucket he's in. Okay. So when he's here, he's here. He's focused on work and the business and growth. Fantastic. He's just come back from a 3-week holiday with my mum in Canada, when that's very much husband mode, you know, because he's out of business. He's not doing any real business there. Barely talk to us at all. He's just focused there. That's husband duty. But equally, if we're at home and it is my sister's birthday or we're on a family holiday or whatever, then he's there and it's dad mode again and it's getting that split. So he's always been quite good at being like, okay, switching now to family mode versus business. And that's just something I'm going to have to learn.
I was going to say, how do you get that? So I've got a 3-year-old, and it is very, very similar in terms of, like, when does one stop and one start? But at the same time, obviously, Nigel's brought up very entrepreneurial children that are hardworking, will earn the spurs, not be handed anything. So how is that sort of transpires over the years that you guys have ended up, because obviously if he's father mode, he's not sat there talking to you about business, but you're all very entrepreneurial in nature. Was it a sit at Sunday dinner and talk about it, or?
Kind of. I think we've always, not always, but we do talk about business quite a lot. I think, we used to really enjoy doing going into the office with Nigel, and it's like the school holidays, let's go in for the day and help stuff some envelopes, whatever, and see what's going on. And we've always been really interested in the business and what it is. And I think that as we got older, we became more aware, this is, actually really interesting and something that we want to look into more. And, I've always shown quite a big interest in having a business and being an entrepreneur and stuff like that as from a child. So Nigel did used to take me to business events that he was going to and things like that. And so we would talk about, I'd be like, I've got this great business idea, this, that, and the other, and we'd talk about it and things like that. So business was part of the conversation, but it's not like he sat at home working and ignoring his children, getting that divide, right? I think because I have a 10-month-old son now who is great, super guy, very funny. But I find myself having to deliberately switch, because I could quite easily, we work 8 till 6, Monday to Thursday here. We don't work Fridays. It's tremendous, highly recommend it. But it means we work 8 till 6, and it can so easily get to 7 o'clock, and I'm just still here working because I'm on stuff and haven't even realized what's going on. And then I get a FaceTime call from my wife, and it's just the baby on the phone being like, Daddy, where are you? I'm like, okay, so I'm coming. And, I think that we've, to the point where my wife skillfully shifted my child's sleeping hours. So he goes to bed at 9 p.m. and then sleeps a bit longer in the morning and stuff, so that I have time with him in the evenings, because she knows that most of the time I'm going to be home late from work and things like that, which is fine now when he's a baby and he still gets plenty of sleep. It's all, it's all proved. But, I'm very aware that actually I need to get better at making that switch. Okay, now actually, even though this is important and does need to get done, I can actually do that tomorrow morning. It's bath time. Let's go. Let's, focus on the stuff that's important. And I think that a little exercise that I do every now and then is, and I find it quite helpful if, I've got a member of the team or something who's getting too stressed or flustered or whatever, anything like that. I think, especially as business owners, it's so easy to get focused on the problems of the business or the challenge that you've got, or you'll get stuck in this, or you think, no, I'm going to stay late, I'm going to just focus on this work that needs to get done. And I was like, okay, fine. But if you got a call that said, if I got a call that said, Teddy's fallen over, we're on our way to hospital, there's literally no work in the world. I'm like, I just need to finish this email, hold on, then I'll get there. You're just gone. That's it. And I think every now and then, especially as business owners, when the whole world's on our flipping shoulders, I think just reminding ourselves of actually what is important and what we're doing this for, because we're not, some people are, but most of us aren't doing the work for the sake of working hard. Well, see that we get tremendous satisfaction from working hard, and that feels good, and all sorts of tremendous stuff goes on mentally about that. But actually, most of us are doing this to provide a lifestyle that we want, which normally involves spending as much time as we want and delivering the lifestyle for our children, for our partners, for this, that, and the other. And I think that just that little tweak exercise every now and whenever it's 7 o'clock and I'm let me just finish this thing. I'm like, well, wait a second, because actually, why are we doing this? Let's go home, see the baby, I
like that as a reminder. If someone had rang me and said he was on his way to hospital, what's the choice?
Yeah, you just go.
The hard thing is, I guess, when the fact you have to take stock, you're the same. It's because when you love the work, it's not like you're at work, is it? You're just enjoying it, you're in the moment. So then it's hard to, it's different if you're in a 9 to 5 that you
And that's what my wife doesn't get. Because she's like, it's 7 o'clock, why are you still at work? Come home. Because she thinks that my work is her job was, which is it's 5 o'clock, time to go home, let's get out of here. Whereas, because, and again, if you're running your business right, then you should be spending your time doing the stuff that you enjoy doing, that fuels you, that gets you excited, or at least is the work that's going to help you achieve the things that you want to achieve to get you there. So you're pumped about it. This is what you want to be doing. And so it's even harder for us, because for so many reasons, because the stuff we're doing is the stuff that we want to be doing, because there's no one there saying, hey, it's quitting time, let's go. There's no one there who can pick up the slack if you do go early and do stuff. So because it's all on us, I think we have to take that little extra bit of responsibility to snap out of it and just remind ourselves, oh wait, what's it all for?
Definitely.
That's where I need to get better, because I just have me to worry about. So sometimes it's just,
10 hours can feel like
and
3 though.
You've said that to me a lot, haven't you, that I need to have different goals and maybe set different times to have downtime in a different way, because I can quite easily sit at my laptop all night because no kids, I'm not currently in a relationship, so it's easy for me to just do that. But then I found when I have actually, if the Champions League's on or something, I want to watch football, I sit and have that night watching that, I feel much better the next day because I've kind of done something. So yeah, it's good learning.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've kind of, what's really good about this structure, we've kind of done it all without actually trying.
Oh my gosh.
So, but we've got a few bits that we wanted to go into from a story point of view. So yesterday at the meeting we were at, we heard that you have a cocktail bar at your desk. Is that still true?
We've spoken already about how business life should be fun. Okay? And I think that's, I think there's definitely occasions, especially in marketing, and in business in general, when you're going to do things that are worthy of celebration.
Love that.
And it's always good to have the tools of celebration handy, ready to go. And so, yes, we have, when we were speccing the kitchen for the staff kitchen upstairs, I did spec a dual zone wine fridge, of course, because we need to have plenty of champagne and nice wine available there for when we need it. I do have a fabulous little drinks trolley by my desk with all sorts of whiskies and gins and things like that, because you know what, every now and then we deserve a little celebration, just a little something to say, this has been a good day, let's go. And I find that, I try not to force drink in particular on any member of the team, but I think that it's I think sometimes doing little things like that, if the sales guys have had a really great week and it's Thursday evening, it's the last day of our week, they've smashed their targets, it's like, guys, come on, let's raise a toast. We've smashed it. Something little like that is enough to just really reinforce the right messages to the right people. So part of it is fun. I do enjoy a drink, and I'm lucky enough that we've got the kind of culture here in Entrepreneur Circle where that's allowed and in fact encouraged in moderation. Drink responsibly in the office. Never in the morning, no. But, I think, again, life's all about having fun.
Absolutely.
That's it. So why not?
Why FaceTime you at 7 p.m. and
That's just that. I'm just leaning over the bottle. Oh, God.
So, Charlie, what's his name? What did I get wrong?
Charlie Lawrence.
Charlie Lawrence. So yeah, ChatGPT betrayed me on this. But there's actually a good story about someone that's not called Charlie Lawrence. It's called Caleb, I believe. And you told it at the Entrepreneurs Circle convention, and it kind of blew us away. And I just wanted to, if you could just go through that story, because it is just mind blowing when stuff like that happens, isn't it?
It is. I think that this is sometimes the universe just gives you a little helping hand, and just stars align. And this is definitely one of those occasions because, for a while here at Entrepreneur Circle, we knew that we really wanted to step up our content game on social media, the free content that we're putting out there. We wanted to do a lot more with it, particularly with like YouTube and things like that, because it was a bit of a gap for us. And we didn't have anyone on the team owning that who was, had tremendous experience in growing YouTube channels or doing anything really meaningful with content like that. We were just kind of dabbling. We were trying to work it out. And in business, it's always much better to find someone who's done what you want to do and learn from them, because you're going to get the results you want to get much faster than if you just try and work it out on your own. And so me and my brother, in fact, flew out to Las Vegas to one of Alex and Layla Hormozi's workshops that they have there. Because obviously Alex Hormozi, big content business person, who's kind of, in the space of not very long, he basically did exactly what we wanted to do. Because Alex Hormozi went from someone who didn't really have an audience at all. He had a few thousand followers, people who knew him from his gym business, things like that, and suddenly had millions of followers and created this humongous audience of business owners and people who want to be business owners. And we'd always struggled to, put out business content. If you put out business content for business owners, because most people aren't business owners and don't care about business content, it's very difficult for the algorithms to like push it out to enough people. So it's always been a real big challenge. And so we were like, okay, this guy is living what we want to do and achieve. So let's go and work out. Let's see what we can learn from him. And so we flew out to Vegas, and at his workshop, one of the things they do on like day 2 of the workshop, they have these little roundtable sessions where different members of his team come, and you can basically each ask them a question. And you're putting these little rings, you sit around, and then at the end, and you each ask a question. And one of the experts was this guy called Caleb. And Caleb was the head of brand, the director of brand at acquisition.com. And he was the guy that Alex and Lena had brought in to basically, task with building his audience. Like, what do we do? Like, go. And so he'd built that whole content machine from them. And so I was like, oh my God, this guy, crazy. And so I asked him my question, which was about, how do you get the balance between business content and like mass appeal and all sorts of stuff. And he gave a very useful answer, which I was like, oh wow, this guy, so knowledgeable, love that. And so he came back with all these great ideas and started implementing stuff, and, we started to get some traction, things like that. And, we were doing well, but I was still just very conscious that, we need someone to like come in and own this. Someone to come and just take over our brand. We need a director of brand to come in and do what Caleb has done for Alex and Lena there. That's what we need. And I'm scrolling the internet one day, and I get a LinkedIn message from Elliot, my brother. And I'm like, why is he messaging me on LinkedIn? That's a weird way to communicate with your brother. But anyway, so I clicked the thing, and he shared this post. And Caleb has posted this thing saying like, oh, the end of all these years at acquisition.com, looking forward to new adventures, and I was like, oh my gosh, crazy, this guy's left Alex and Lena, what's going on? And so, you comment on the post like, oh, Caleb, good luck with what's coming next, realized I wasn't connected with him or following him at all, so did all that stuff, like quick, connect with him, follow him, see what's going on, because I was like, oh, interested. I was a bit interested, like, oh, what's happening, what's going on? And a week later, I get notified, oh, Caleb's done a little post, because I'd engaged so much. LinkedIn was like, you're gonna like this. And I did, because Caleb had done this post basically saying, oh, I'm decided that I'm gonna do what I want to work with some other businesses. I want to do what I did for Alex and Layla, for other people. If you're interested, hit me up, ping me a message, and let's chat. And I was like, I've never typed a message faster in my life. Because, quick, and I pinged this little message. I was like, Caleb, oh my God, remember me from the workshop? Obviously not, but anyway, let's chat, what's going on? And so we connected, and he sent me a little link to book a call with him. And so I had this call with him. And because he's based in Vegas, the time difference is nuts. And so I booked this call, and funnily enough, this call was, I think it was at like 7:15 in the evening here. And so I'd stayed in the office, I was only on in the office, and at 7:15, got on this call with Caleb. And it was only meant to be a 15-minute call, and it went on for like 40 minutes. And we were just vibing off each other, having a great time. He was talking about how he wants to, work with like 2 or 3 people and just like focus on helping them with what they're doing as like this kind of remote director of brand kind of position, and was asking me about the business and what's going on. And he was like, this is great. Oh my God. Well, I've got like, as you can imagine, I've got about like 100 different calls now. Like my diary's just blah, 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 blah. And so I was like, that's fine, yeah. And he's like, I'm only picking 2, so I'll let you know. Anyway, the next day, he's like, are you free for a call? And I'm like, yes, I am. And we got on this call, and he's like, I was telling my girlfriend about our call yesterday, and I was like, just rattling off all these things about. And she was like, why are you even waiting? You clearly really like Cameron and this business entrepreneur circle. You should just do it. And he was like, yeah, I should. Wait a second. Yeah, let's do it. And so I was like, oh my God, are we doing this? He was like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, oh, this is so exciting, yes. And so basically, in the space of like literally 2 days, I went from a LinkedIn post to basically hiring the exact person who had done the exact thing that we wanted to do, to actually come and work for us and do that. And reflecting back on it, I was like, gosh, this is, in fact, I remember pitching it to Nigel, because at this point, I'd not told Nigel anything. I've just basically agreed to hire this guy who's very expensive and not told anything to Nigel. So I said to Nigel, right, imagine for a second, you wanted to really, let's take this seriously. We know we want to boost our audience. We know we want to put out really quality content. We know that the struggle's like, it's business content, da-da-da. I just think we need to stop thinking small. If we were to go out there and, let's poach someone. If you were going to design the exact person you'd want to do this role, who would it be? Think of everyone in the entire world. Who would it be? And obviously, luckily, he said the right answer. He said, well, the guy who's done this for Alex and Layla, you just want him to come and do it. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I've just agreed.
So glad you agree.
And so we basically started working with Caleb, and we've been working with him for quite a few months now. And it's quite a fun little system working remotely from Vegas and stuff. So we have our set weekly calls and things like that. And I think it's so helpful to have someone who just knows all the answers. And I think it's one of the most underutilized resources for business owners anywhere, is to just go and find someone who's just the best at the thing you want to do. And there's plenty of excuses on why business owners don't want to hire staff. A lot of people completely miss the whole cost aspect of it because they just see their annual salary and think they need that much profit stored away to then spend on this person, as if they're not going to actually help grow the business or in any way. And there's all sorts of mindset issues around it. But actually, growing a business is so much easier when you have people who are literally world-class at the thing you want to do, working for you to help you do it. And if I could instill one message into every business owner in the whole world, it would be to just not underestimate how much better life is when you've got properly good people working for you. And so many business owners settle for just mediocre, average people. And in every situation, if you've got an average, mediocre person, the time they eventually leave, you're so overfilled with relief, and you suddenly realize how much better life is and all this sort of stuff. And when you get someone who's really good, and when you haven't experienced it before, it's magical. It's like, it feels like wizardry. Because when you get someone who's just, oh my God, this person's just incredible at this thing. They're so much better at this than I could ever be. And as business owners, we have to be quite good at lots of different things. And so it's very easy for us to be better than even the staff we've hired to do the job. Like, if you're sat there thinking, oh, any member of my staff, I could do that job better than them, then they're probably not the right person to do that job. Because actually, the real secret, the real magic, is the way to properly grow a business is get someone who's way better than you could ever be. Someone who's truly world-class at what it is, whether that is the marketing, the running your ads, the writing your emails, the answering your phones, the welcoming your members. Matt the butler's a way better butler than I would ever be, right? I would not remember anyone's name. I'm rubbish with names, right? And all things like that. And so I think that is, it kind of ties in. So that's what we've done with Caleb. We've gone and got the best person that we could get. And that's what we strive to do with all of our team now, is let's get really good people. Because the difference, you'll pay a bit more for really good people, but the difference in output and caliber of output and the metabolic rate of your business between a good person and a flipping great person is so much more. So that's tangents. Love tangents.
And that, another thing that I heard here before, I think it was Nigel that was talking about it, was it's not only getting the right people, it's then setting them up for success. And one of the things I love what you guys do is you kind of say to somebody when they come in, what do you need to do your job the best you can do it? What resources do you need? What equipment do you need? And then straight off the bat, they've told you what they need to succeed. And then if they fail to succeed, I guess they've got no qualms with it, but you've also set them up for success from the off as well.
Yeah, we can do a whole other episode on staff and maximizing that, because it's so true. I think that, as a business owner, if you think your job with your staff at a very base level, just remove all the excuses. If there's any reason, if there's any excuse as why a member of the team isn't doing what they need to be doing, just remove all those excuses. If a member of the team in this building even complains a little that like their computer is slow, or like the reason they haven't been able to do this is because their keyboard is a bit dodgy, whatever, that thing gets chucked in the bin. The windows don't open this in the office, but normally it'd be chucked out the window and replaced like that. Like we, when someone starts, we say, like, are you a Mac user? Are you a PC user? What's best for you? Let's hook you up. And we had one guy actually who felt too awkward to say they were a Mac user, and so said he was a PC user, even though he'd only used Macs his entire life, and struggled along for like 3 months with his PC. He didn't know what was going on, and eventually he was like, you said at the beginning, actually, can I have a Mac? We're like, yeah, have a Mac. Why are you doing this? This is such a weird thing. So even like basic things like equipment is like an easy one, but even like, I haven't had time to achieve my actual purpose in this business because I've been helping so-and-so do this because they're swamped. Okay, well, so-and-so, why are you so swamped? Oh, because I'm doing this, da-da. If you just follow that piece of string and remove the excuses, eventually you get a really high-performing team, and that's what we need.
Can I have one quick question just before we move on from the brand director, because it was one of the ones I wanted to ask you. Yesterday they mentioned that you're going to do a bit of a sort of a new direction with regards to your branding, your social media presence, and what it is that you're doing online. How, with everything that you've now learned, which I have no doubt will trickle down in the EC over the coming months, how do you find a balance over building a brand, like you say, too much business or a little bit personal? Because they said a story yesterday, didn't they, that one of the best performing posts was a family photo of you guys. Now, there isn't that much about the personal life of you guys online. So what is a good balance, or what advice would you give on the good balance of putting your personal life in against your professional output?
Yeah, I think that there's a few things at play which will impact how, I don't think there's a blanket rule. The only blanket rule is that almost certainly, like, the more personal stuff will typically perform better than business stuff. Even like if your Facebook page, if your Instagram page is your name as a person versus your business name with a logo, like the personal one will perform better because people are on these platforms to consume the content of other people, and as soon as it's a business, it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. So personal stuff does perform really well. I think for us in particular, we're very conscious that Entrepreneurs Circle is bigger than just Nigel or me or Elliot or anyone. And actually with Entrepreneurs Circle, we're trying to make kind of a conscious effort to actually include more people, kind of broaden the content that we're putting out there so it's less reliant on one person. I think for a lot of small businesses, that I think putting more of your personality into the content that you put out there is a tremendous good thing to do. And we still put our personality into the content that we do. Yeah. But you're right, we don't have, we're not filming vlogs of our family dinners and stuff like that on the EC page. I think part of it is because we want to make sure that the content that Entrepreneur Circle puts out is like at its heart, again, like that really useful content that is gonna, we want someone to consume any single piece of our content and have some actionable thing that they could then go and do. Even if it's just like go mull on this idea and think like, oh yeah, like that could work for someone else. Or like actually, oh yeah, I'm gonna go send this exact like messaging out there, whatever. I think the practical side of things is really important for us. I think that, the more, it's kind of a constant struggle to get the right balance. Because the more of your personality that you come across, the better. And so we're very much pro personality in a big way. Like you'll never see content that's just like AI voice over stock images, like saying the same message as like Nigel would deliver, like talking this things through. Like that's very different. So personality is like a real big thing for us. But just like personal life and like the other side of things, I think there's a place for it. It's probably just not the Entrepreneur Circle side of things. And I think that potentially going forward, as more of us start to kind of become more kind of visible, particularly to like public facing, you might start to see more of that side on like our personal accounts versus the EC one, but then it all kind of links together. My big thing for, I think most small business owners really overthink the content that they put out there. And they think that they need a fancy studio and video team and expensive cameras, things like that. And I always say, for most businesses, if all you did was just literally document what you're doing, like just film what you're doing, even if it feels like it's really boring. People find that so interesting to see like behind the scenes of what's going on. You know, if you run, with a member the other week who runs a toy shop, like a physical toy shop, I was like, if you just filmed yourself, like this week, our display is going to be like this model railway, so here's, and like film yourself making like the display for the toy shop, or like stocking the shelves and talking about the toys as you put them up and things like that. Like, as boring as that sounds to you, people will find that really interesting. Yeah. And I think nowadays, when you look at like TikTok and Instagram Reels, things like that, there's this whole swath of content, which is like, it's almost like, it's a mixture of kind of like a fly on the wall, behind the scenes, almost like ASMR kind of chilled out, lo-fi therapeutic stuff of just like seeing people do the stuff that they do. Like, I have this account and I watch all their videos, and all it is this guy just unblocking drains on roads.
Oh, is that the ones that shoot out?
No, it's not even the exciting ones. No, it's literally, he finds like a road that's flooded because it's raining, and he like finds the drain, and there's like a load of leaves and stuff that have flown, and just like gets his foot and gets a rake and like unblocks the drain and stuff like that. And I'm like, and sometimes I reflect, I'm like, why am I watching all these videos? But I find it so, it's just really interesting to watch, like the drain unblock and things like that. And like, obviously, we've all seen like, you know, you get like gardeners and lawnmowers and people who film themselves like mowing the lawn, and you get the before and afters, pressure washing, things like that. Any business which has any sort of before and after, oh my gosh, just film that and put it up there, and that will be tremendous content that people really enjoy. And I think that so many people think that their content has to have more to it. And actually, especially if you're scared to start putting content out there, actually just putting content, just film what you're doing.
Well, some of the high-performing YouTube ones are kids playing with toys while kids watch other kids playing with toys. So it's exactly the same concept. It blows my mind. So whoever thought of that is an absolute genius. But
yeah, Joey, all that polished stuff's off, so you're...
Yeah.
So you've got one of your questions in there. So did you want to... You've got another couple that you wanted to ask.
Yeah.
We're coming towards the end, so...
So given what you do here at Entrepreneur Circle, do you, and I'm sure you do have many, but what do you do when a member comes to you and says, I've done everything that you've said, but it's not working? What do you do?
You say you've not done everything.
So, can't possibly be true. So this actually happens quite rarely. Which is very reassuring for us. But I think that there's certain, you know, certain different resource and packaging and things that we do where we're very prescriptive, actually, in like what we tell people to do. But we have a thing at Entrepreneur Circle, which is on the wall outside, which is called Bananarama Syndrome. Because it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. That's what gets results. And that is so rife amongst business owners, because, you know, the amount of people who say, oh yeah, Google ads, tried that, doesn't work, waste of time. Well, let's just think for a minute, because clearly Google ads does work. Yeah. Otherwise, literally millions and millions of business owners wouldn't still be running their Google ads, would they? And I think that in the instances where someone says that they've done exactly what we've suggested they do and it not worked, more often than not, they've taken the idea of what we said and then put their own spin on things and interpreted it and missed like a vital bit, which, you know, part of that we feel bad then because it's like, oh, we should have been clear at that. Don't mess with this. This is like you'll see even like the simple things, like the 3-line email. So the 3-line email is like a go-to quick win that we have here. Someone joins our circle. If they've got any sort of list of previous people who've inquired with them, any sort of prospect list, we always say, just send them this 3-line email. It's super simple. It's just, hi, name, put their name in. Are you still interested in getting your drains cleaned? Whatever the thing is that your business does, and then you sign it off with your name. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Easy peasy. Send that out. You'll send that out, and you'll get loads of replies from people saying, yes. And then, fantastic, you can then talk to them and sell them the thing that you want to sell them. And we had a member quite a few months ago now, probably a year or two ago, who came to us and said, this, and we remember it because his email was very aggressive. Just something like, what's with this? Let's just take a second. Because his email basically said, this 3-line email is a piece of shit. What a waste of time. I'm like, sorry? And he was like, I've sent it, doesn't work. Didn't get any replies. And I was like, oh gosh, well, how many people did you send it to? And it turns out he'd sent it to 12 people. I was like, okay, Not a lot of people. And he's like, well, I didn't want to send it to everyone, did I? I just wanted to test it out. I was like, okay, great. Do you have the email that you sent? And he's like, yeah, here's the email I sent. And he sent this email over. I swear to God, it was like a flipping essay. It was almost, I almost had to check this wasn't like a member of the team messing with me, because this person had sent out the 3-line email. It's called the 3-line email because it's only 3 lines. And this email was like this long. And he'd taken the concept of emailing past people and asking them if they're still interested, and then completely invented his own way of doing that. And so he said, look, this is lovely, but also completely not the 3-line email. Why don't you try, given you're going to send it to 12 people, why don't you send the rest of the people this exact, like we'll wrote it for him because it's very easy to write. So here, copy paste this, don't do anything else, send us a test beforehand so we can check that you've done this right, And so we send this, Oh, Blumeck, look at this, all these responses that work. Isn't that crazy? Wow. And I think that in so many instances, you'll find people have like skipped a step. We talk a lot about running competitions and how they're a great source of leads, because you run a big competition, you can away a great prize, like a really good prize that only people who would buy the thing that you want to sell would be interested in anyway. And then you announce the winner, and there's a winner, but then you also have your runners-up prize, which is then normally a great offer on the thing that they want anyway. And we get people who say, oh, I've tried the competition, it didn't work. And we're like, oh, what a shame. Talk us through how you did it. And it turns out that they ran this competition and their prize, like their big headliner prize, was like a 10% off voucher for this thing. And it's like, okay, I wonder why that didn't work, because no one actually wants to win that. That's a weird prize to get in a competition. Or they'll say, oh yeah, I read it right, I had a great prize. Oh, that is a good prize, great. What was the follow-up? How did you go to your runners-up? It's like, oh, was I meant to do something with... Yes, at the moment, you've just given away a thing. You've got all these people who are interested. Do something with them. You've got to follow the steps there. So a lot of times, it's reminding people, actually, boom. And we're very lucky in that we've been doing this for so long. Yeah. We've seen all the variations and stuff like that. The stuff that we, teach and try and get our members to go and implement is the stuff that we know works. Like, there's a reason we're saying, send this 3-line email as it is. There's a reason we're saying, here's the follow-up templates to follow and do. It's because we've used it, we've seen it, and it works in every industry. And try not to mess with that. And by all means, tweak little bits and pieces and go crazy. But then don't come crying to me if you've completely changed what I've given you, and suddenly that's not working how we thought it would work. That's on you.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings me into one of the last questions I had. What's been the most memorable marketing campaign that EC have done for you?
Wow. I think probably 2 come to mind. Can I have 2? Is that cheating? One is super old school and one is super recent. So a super old school one, Entrepreneur Circle used to basically, for some reason, effectively run as an annual subscription that didn't automatically renew. For some reason, just didn't think that was a good thing to do. And so every year we had to kind of resell membership to people. Although it was called something slightly different then, but it was essentially, we were reselling membership. And so every September, we did a big campaign to like resell the next year's worth of content and lineups and all this sort of stuff like that. And this was like the first year I was like properly involved in the marketing team and everything like that. And so we were involved in the thing. And we'd done a lot of like smaller campaigns and things like that. And again, I'm a big fan of doing fun stuff. And my favorite thing with marketing is all the super weird little like hacky bits that somehow have a big impact on conversion and results. I've been loving that, all little split tests and results, things like that. And so a big thing at Entrepreneur Circle is if you're going to send like something in the post, like you'll get much better results if you do it in a colored envelope rather than a white envelope, if you put a stamp on it rather than get it franked off, because if you handwrite the address rather than put a label on it, you'll get better results. Not because that somehow magically makes the message inside more compelling, but because it shifts the mindset someone's in when they receive your message inside, because they're excited to open this, see what it is, versus, oh, what's this, another random bill, whatever, da-da. And so I remember I had this thought, like, okay, if that is the case, let's go crazy on this next campaign. Let's really test it to the limit. And so I remember that we were going to send like 1,200 things out in the post. And we bought all the colored envelopes. We did like A4 envelopes, bright colors. We did a selection of colors, like whole flipping rainbow. And we decided that we were going to hand address all the envelopes. 1,200 envelopes is so many addresses. Oh my God. So literally for like a week, the entire team has like their list of addresses and like just doing little bits and pieces. Yeah, honestly, it was such a nightmare. But we hand addressed all the addresses. And then I know that stamps worked well. But what most people don't even realize, I didn't realize until I started looking up, we would buy our stamps on online. You can buy them on the post office website or the Royal Mail website. One website, Royal Mail or post office, you can buy your stamps online. They deliver them to you. Fantastic, because we needed a lot of stamps. And as I was on there, I saw there's a whole section of like collectible stamps, like specialty stamps. And I was like, oh, click. And these stamps, when you buy them from the post office, are the same price as the stamp that it is. So it's a first-class stamp, it's a first-class stamp. Whether it's a normal first-class stamp, or whether it's a Star Wars first-class stamp, or a Battle of Britain first-class stamp, or a Christmas-themed first-class stamp. And so I was like, oh my goodness. And so I found these stamps, and so we ordered all the stamps we used in this campaign were all random, like, collector's stamps. And so we had this bright colored A4 envelope, hand-signed, and you'd have like R2-D2 on a stamp next to the baby Jesus on a stamp, like, because each thing had 2 stamps on it because it was a large letter, all this sort of stuff. And I was like, we're really pushing it to the limit. And then we got our designer to create 3 stickers. And they were all like, one was like an ECE logo, like in a fun little way. One was a little cartoon seal that like was holding like a life preserver ring in its mouth that said like seal of approval on it, like little pun thing, and almost some other random little fun little sticker. And so I was like, wow, we really went to town with this. So we had these colorful envelopes, hand addressed, like collectible stamps, and then we had these 3 funny stickers on the front and back of all the envelopes as well. Oh my, I was like, this is gonna go crazy. And honestly, that campaign performed so much better than any other version of that campaign I'd done in the past. It's not even logical, but it was so, I was very pleased because we'd all put in so much effort handwriting this thing, but it was so like reaffirming that like, oh yes, you know what? Like this stuff does work. And I think that it's almost the littlest, like stupidest little things that you just think and people don't do it because it's like takes a little bit more work, or they think like it's just stupid. Like I'm not sticking baby Jesus stamps on my direct mail. That's crazy. But honestly, I reckon that, and I almost wanted to send it out again and like test the different types of stamp, like which character converts the best, all this sort of stuff. I was getting carried away, but I'm almost convinced that using baby Jesus stamps on your direct mail will boost your conversion rates by double-digit percentages. Which anyway, so that was that. I remember that one because it was like such a big team effort thing and testing all these fun stuff. The one that's most recent that I remember vividly is our marketing campaign around our event with Stephen Bartlett, which was last November. And we marketed that event, and we did a proper, I like all like the big proper marketing campaigns. So we did a whole big teaser campaign running up to it, like teasing that something exciting was coming, big, news, big announcement, or we're doing an event with someone, oh my God, who's going to be, that are getting everyone super hyped up. And so everyone was like very excited and big teaser thing. And then in the background, I'm there and we've got the venue all sorted, Stephen's all sorted, everyone's happy. And, both the venue and Stephen, all quite expensive to sort out. And so I'm like, okay, we need to sell at least 300 tickets to this thing for it to be worthwhile, all this effort and doing. And the venue seats, we can probably get 500 people in there with this table layout based on what we think is going on. We had a whole conversation about pricing, like, oh gosh, I think we need to make it just a bit cheaper so that people buy the tickets, doing all the stuff in the background. But we pushed it out, did the big announcement, and it was one of those rare instances where everything just, it's quite hard to describe, but when you do a marketing campaign, especially one that has like a launch, and it works, like even better than you ever thought it could possibly ever work, it's such an incredible feeling when you've been like stressing and fretting over this, that, and the other. But when you just nail it, when you get the exact right offer with the exact right audience and it all comes together and everyone is just like super excited about what's going on and things go crazy, that is just incredible. And we had that experience when we launched that campaign. Those Stephen Bartlett tickets went because they sold out so fast. And that feeling was then quickly overtaken by another feeling, which was, oh God, hold on a second. Because we'd staged this ticket release so that our longest-standing members got first dibs, then the rest of our members got access, and then we had gone out to the whole world and been like, join this priority list for this event, and we have we've quite a big list of prospects and people who've been members in the past, things like that. So we had a big, we had tens of thousands of people who had joined the priority list to hear about this event, who were going to get the announcement and find out what it is after we'd given the heads up to our members and everyone else. What we had not foreseen is that we'd literally sell out of tickets to this event before they'd even get a chance to see what it is. And that only clocked in, and it was only like an hour difference between like the members getting there and then those guys getting there. And about half an hour in, when we were like, oh my gosh, we've sold out, this is crazy. Well done, everyone. Get the cocktail tray out. Here we go. So I was like, oh, wait a second. All these people have joined this priority list to get tickets to this event, and they're about to go to page, and like we've not even we've joined the priority list. I'm like, what do we do? I was like drafting this email that was like, hey, I know you joined the priority list, but sorry, you weren't priority enough in our eyes to even get a chance. Like, oh my gosh. And so we had to reframe how we all did it. And gosh, I'm really sharing some trade secrets. This is very insider stuff. But what we ended up doing, I was like, okay, we need to fix this in a way. How do people not feel let down by what's gone on here? And so, we spent 20 minutes frantically calling every venue in the Midlands, being like, do you have availability on this day? Can I get a bigger venue? Da-da. I had our account manager at the NEC on the phone. I was like, can I book a hall at the NEC and build our own flipping auditorium there and fit 1,000 people in this thing? Because I reckon I could sell these tickets. And nothing was available on the day, and the day was already out, and all these people had already bought their tickets. Da-da-da. So we're like, okay, we can't make it bigger. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? And I was like, okay, well, at that point we weren't live streaming the event. Because we were like, no, we don't need to do that. And I was like, okay, let's offer the live stream release. So let's offer the live stream, da-da-da. And so we basically, in the 25 minutes between coming up with the idea and the priority list being released, what we did was I got our tech guy, Tommy, who's an absolute wizard at all this kind of website-y stuff. I was like, okay, Tommy, when you go on Ticketmaster to buy a ticket, like Taylor Swift concert, you go in a queue. And then you wait for your turn in the queue, and then sometimes the tickets have sold out before you get to your time in the queue. We need to build a queue, quick. And so Tommy built a queue system so that when the priority lists of people, even though tickets are already sold, got the notification, it's time, go, they would go into a queue, be randomly allocated a place, but everyone's queue would keep them there for at least 4 minutes. And so everyone was waiting 4 minutes, everyone had their own little progress bars, and when they got we had little messages popping up that's like, oh, VIP, sold out, all these things. And it meant that when people got to the end of the queue, basically, it had sold out. Oh no, gosh, it's the queue's fault. Oh my goodness. But don't worry, because we're now going to do live stream because it's been so popular. So last minute live stream tickets available, And so luckily we were able to people were disappointed, but they were not as disappointed because they had at least the illusion of a chance to get this ticket that they wanted, which is, quite a tricky thing to achieve there. And then at least they could get a live stream ticket, which we discounted for them and stuff because they missed out on the chance to do it. But that was, I remember, because it had such a high when it just clicked and it really worked. And, you only get that a few times if you're really lucky, when you get that perfect match of offer and audience and things like that. But then, I think for me it's memorable because that was such a stressful hour window between that and sorting that all out. But then actually it all washing through, and actually no one was that annoyed on the project, and it all kind of happened and everyone was fine. And so we kind of recovered from what could have been quite a tricky situation as well. So it's kind of a double whammy. Those both stick in my mind.
Yeah, I can see why.
So we've got one final question then that our previous guest left for you. He was a CMO of Gymbox in Dubai. He's really does guerrilla marketing, really cool promos he's done. But his question was, which will be quite good for us, and I said to him when he asked it, God, I hope I don't feel seen, but what's the biggest mistake that you see entrepreneurs make?
Ooh, gosh, in the nicest way possible. There are so many, so many big ones. I think the biggest mistake that most entrepreneurs make actually is that they think too small. And I think that, we have a saying here, it's on the wall upstairs on the top floor, that the worst thing you can do as a small business owner is think like a small business owner. And actually, so many people's businesses would be so much further to where they want them to be, and be so much bigger, if the business owner could just step out of that day-to-day hamster wheel that they're in and actually zoom out a second and just thought a little bit bigger about what they can do and about the impact that they can have, and actually, how their business could grow. And I think that kind of limiting belief, which in a lot of cases isn't like a deliberate thing, people just, people don't know what they don't know. And I think it's one of the reasons why Entrepreneur Circle is so powerful, is when you're hanging around with people who have much bigger businesses than you, it's magical when you see someone who's a travel agent on their own, like one person travel agent who's doing fine. They've got like a very chill business. They're doing like 70 grand a year or whatever, but they're fine with it, having a great time. And they meet at an EC event another travel agent who's still a one-man band, but maybe like an assistant, who's doing like £500,000 this year. They never thought that that was even possible. And all of a sudden their eyes are up and say, oh, wait a second. Oh my gosh. This whole time I've been just striving like to hit the VAT threshold. And actually this could be £1 million business in like literally a year's time. Da-da-da. And I think breaking free of that kind of self-constraint, I think, is a massive thing. There's loads though. Yeah. Absolutely loads. I think that, a lot of people don't spend enough time focusing on the marketing and on getting customers, and spend too much time stuck in the day-to-day. I think so many business owners end up dealing with just, especially once you've got a small team, it's really easy for you as a business owner to become just like the owner of all the random menial tasks that no one else is responsible for. So you have to like mop up, and like, it's good that you're the one who's, investigating the leak in the ceiling, because that shows you're up the ladder because you're, a leader who, shows by example, that's fine. But when you spend all day trying to fix the leak in the ceiling instead of growing the business, you're doing the wrong stuff. And that's rife amongst most people. I think, even with the market, like so many business owners try and get customers as cheaply as possible, which, on the surface you think makes sense. But when you constrain yourself to spending as little as possible on marketing, you can only do so much. You're only ever going to get as many customers as that can do, and you're not going to get the right level of customers, and da-da-da. There's all sorts. So that's a kind of cheaty answer. But the main one is actually just thinking too small.
I like that one.
Yeah. So we need you to leave a question now, if that's okay, for our next guest, whomever that may be, because that one's left by Rory. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. Who will it be? Gosh, do I get a clue?
It's probably going to be someone from within the fitness space, but we kind of make the questions about anything and everything. So, I'm between two at the moment, both in the fitness space.
Okay, wow. I'm not going to go too cliche, but I love these questions. Mm-hmm. So, if you were to start again today, with the same brain, but none of the resources that you've got now, what would you do differently to get to where you are now faster? That is my question.
I like that.
Yeah, because that spans everything.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I've skillfully done there. Ask it to anyone.
Well, thank you for today, and sorry viewers that you won't be witnessing this great studio for the next event, but it's been really good, really insightful,
Thank
fun.
you very much.
And,
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.